Hi everybody, Fee Hills here and welcome. I'm from Nudger AI, for those of you that don't know. And today I'm here with Tony Dain from Future Vision. And we have partnered to create mind nudging journeys, to which again, some of you may understand what they are, some of you may not. And today really is about talking about something called empathy in CX. So empathy in really customer experience, and really redefining that frontline learning to fit in with this sort of changing world that we're living in. So part of what we're doing this week is really to celebrate Learning in Work week in the 2024, which really focuses this time on learning power, and particularly they're focused on lifelong and continuous learning, which today and every day this week, really what we're doing is innovating within that space. So on that note, I'm going to pass the space over to you, Tony. Tell us more about empathy in CX.
Good morning, Fee. Good morning, everybody. It's lovely to be here on this not so bright Monday morning. Where did the good weather go after the weekend? So for those that don't know me, my name's Tony Dain. I'm the MD of Future Vision. I'm a performance facilitator, coach and designer, and we specialise in human skills in leadership and high performance. So as Fee mentioned, we've partnered together to create some journeys around this human skills piece. One of those key areas that we're looking at is customer experience, because as well as all of the work that we do in the kind of the human skills space, background wise, we started off in the world of customer experience. I've actually worked in retail, starting out in Levi's flagship store in Regent Street while I was at university. I've worked in outsourcing for some of the early outsourcers. So I got their contact center background, then worked for one of the first training organizations into the contact center space. So I've got about 20 years of experience in the contact center world essentially go round in a circle, and it kind of makes me smile because someone said, I saw the other day on LinkedIn, you know, empathy now is the #1 skill in customer experience, and I think last year was the year of empathy. And I kind of allow myself a little bit of a wry smile because, you know, we designed our first empathy program back in 2003 for Thames Valley Police. So we've always focused on that emotional content side of the experience, because as you know as well as I do, customer experience is an emotional experience. You know, yes, we're going through a process and a transaction, but how we take somebody through that and how we engage with those people is really down to our human skills and that human connection we create. Now, what's really interesting, if we look at now, 2024, we seem to have a big drive to go into this space now of more human. And I think some of that is due to the last 5 years and that post-pandemic, that kind of drive towards that kind of technical, digitalized workplace that we're heading to faster and faster. We've also got the challenge now of things like hybrid working. We've got multi-generational teams. So, you know, we've got potentially, 4 generations in the workplace, all with different views, values, perspectives and beliefs, and drivers and motivations. We're in a world that is under pressure with more polarization and division. And yet at the same time, organizations have still got to look to provide a really great employee experience and, of course, customer experience. And a central part of that is empathy, is that ability to connect. I often use the phrase to empathize is to humanize. So there is a bit of a challenge in the CX space in terms of how people are feeling, customers really struggling, more under pressure and stressed, probably dealing now with more complex and challenging situations and problems that need not only the care and the support, but also really effective ways to solve that problem and solving that fully so that that customer is satisfied and they get their issue resolved, possibly first time as well, rather than these endless back and forth interactions that can drain the customer experience. So let me just pause there for a moment. Fee, have you got anything you want to ask me on that first bit of a context piece?
Well, the empathize to humanize, I think this is really, really interesting. I've just been listening this morning, actually, to an interview. It was an interview going on with Rory Sutherland. And he was really honing in on the absolute critical need for customer experience and how it's so undervalued in over other things, let's put it that way, and how people in customer experience, just as a matter of interest, get paid such less than, say, an engineer, when his perception is surely the one in customer experience who is getting you and looking after your customer should be valued higher. So this is a really interesting phenomena about the way we look at customer experience in general. And to put empathy in the middle is all about, how we make those feel outside ourselves, like, in other words, our customers. And in other words, how can anyone make anyone feel good, or the customer feel good, if they're not? So, of course, you're back to I think what your argument is as well, is how do we build empathy, not just with our customers, but also with our employees in the front line. Is that correct? Like the skill of empathy in a much deeper level.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bigger part of it, Fee. I mean, you've raised a couple of interesting pieces there. If I just deal with the empathy piece first of all, when we think about empathy, it really begins with ourselves, and it begins with our ability to notice our own emotions and feeling states and thoughts, and how that impacts our physiology and how that impacts our ability to be empathic towards ourselves. Because, of course, if we're going to extend that empathy out towards others, then we need to really be able to extend it to ourselves first of all. And if we can't pick up and notice how we're feeling, it's very difficult for us then to begin to notice and pick up on other people's feelings and emotions. So, of course, it does begin with us. And, of course, the advantage of that beginning with us is, of course, our customer teams and our experience teams, they're under the same pressure and challenge often as many of our customers. We know from some of the data when we look at things like employee engagement, we look at absenteeism and stress levels in the workplace. I think I saw a stat the other day, 80% of people have reported to commonly feeling stressed at work. So if we want our people to look after our customers, then we've got to look after our people, and we've got to support them and their emotional development, help build their awareness around their thinking, their emotions. And then, of course, there's more chance they can begin to then do that with others. And, of course, that'll be beneficial because, of course, at work, we also have that well-being challenge. And one of the ways that we can overcome some of our well-being challenges is also through looking at how we look after our own emotions and thoughts and that system. So there's a real win there, that if we focus on it, improving the customer experience and building a more empathic set of interactions, conversations, and relationships, we can also at the same time improve the employee experience as well. And we can put them in a better place where they feel better about the work they're doing, feel more empathy towards them, and then they can go out and extend that empathy to others. And that's really where our journey is going to go, which I'll talk to you about shortly, in terms of how we're going to develop empathy, and really how we've pulled together probably 20 years experience, some of the best tools and techniques, some of the latest thinking to craft a really exciting and interesting and engaging journey for frontline teams that focus not only on themselves, but then on their customers. And then how do we take action? Because that's really where we need to go with empathy. It's not just about connecting on an emotional level and really appreciating somebody else's thoughts and feelings, whatever those might be, but it's also that motivation and willingness to alleviate that person's distress, to solve their problem, to step into their world and really understand what it's like for them. And then with that understanding, be able to find the right solution for that customer, because that's what's really important in the customer space. And probably the difference in terms of business and work, certainly from my perspective, is the empathy piece in terms of action. When I'm with a friend, I might just be there and I'm supporting and I'm listening and maybe not offering anything at all. In the customer space, I need to be able to connect and then find a solution with that customer. And that's really, really important. And if we do that well, then, of course, I feel good about the work that I've done. And, of course, the customer feels listened to, valued, cared for, understood. All of those important things that really matter within a customer relationship. Because, of course, if we get those things right, From an organizational perspective, of course, we get better interactions, better conversations. And of course, that leads then to better satisfaction, more loyalty, more retention, and of course, organizationally, better profits, better reputation. So it all kind of makes sense. And of course, sometimes it's not only the right thing to do, or it is the right thing to do, even when you know that it doesn't always guarantee. You're talking about the profits and all the hard data. Sometimes we know that the human stuff just really is right, even if it's a little bit more intangible at times. And of course, we're hearing a lot of organizations now talk about the human experience. And what is that? Well, that's the customer experience and the employee experience together, isn't it? That's the human experience. So that's kind of why we focused on empathy. That's what the journey is going to kind of link into. So let's have a little look at the journey and let's talk a little bit about that and how it's a little bit different. Because, of course, 20 years ago, we were developing programs. So we'd go into an organization, we'd maybe do some customer experience. And within that, there would be some development around empathy. And then latterly, we do a bit more empathy training programs. But now we've got a bit of a shift. We've reimagined these with our partnership with M&AI to create a 70-20-10 approach, an approach that really transforms the thinking and behavior and equips people with the skills and the strategies to build those really empathic connections, communications, and relationships. And we can do that in a way, if you're in the contact center where a lot of our customer professionals operate from, that you can do that from your desk in your downtime. Because I know one of the challenges within the contact center space has always been taking people off the front line and giving them the time and the space for development. And we know that that's been tried with some e-learning to different effects. This is very different though. This is about really shifting mindset and behavior in a way that's scalable, sustainable, and actually more quickly than your traditional programs. Because if you think about a lot of our traditional programs, we're requiring the support around the coaching, the feedback, the ongoing consolidation. And what our journey can do is it can wrap all of that into one. So we can do mind nudging, which gets people to introspect and think about their experiences live in the flow of work. So while they're having interactions with customers and then reflecting on those, they can join what we call live interactive pop-up sessions, where we'll come together as a group and we'll maybe look at some of the strategies and skills that support and underpin those topics and that learning. We've got these shared thinking pods as well, where you can come together with the rest of your cohort and you share your successes and your challenges and you learn off one another. And then we've got a performance support library where we have additional tools, PDFs, videos on those particular topics that if you want to deepen and extend your learning, then you can go into there as well. So you've got a complete ecosystem. How does the journey work? Well, it works over a period of 6 weeks. Definitely need a herbal tea first thing in the morning. So over 6 weeks, we've got 6 themes. And each theme links to how we're going to develop either empathy for self, empathy with others, and empathy in action. And when we begin to move outside of self, which begins really by reflecting on our thoughts, our emotional states and feelings during our interactions, we then switch that lens outwards and we begin to think about what's happening for the customer. What are they experiencing? And how do we know what they're experiencing? So we begin to do what I call stepping into others' worlds, beginning to see other perspectives and what we can learn by doing that. We look at how we can do that without judgment and being more curious, because of course we often get in our own way at times that stops us really fully understanding that customer situation or understanding their emotional states, which of course then limits our ability to connect, but also limits our ability to find the right solution, because maybe we're making assumptions or judgments about what they need, want, or expect, instead of fully realizing and understanding by stepping into their world what we do, what they need. We've then also got to be able to recognize and appreciate what that customer is feeling. So can we notice those emotional states, whether that's in person, where we've got a lot of non-verbal communication as well as what they say to go off, or whether that's in the contact center environment, where we maybe are on a telephone and we've only got their words and their tone of voice, or even if it's just over social, where we've got only the words themselves. So we've got to think about all of those different interactions and how we can shape those through how we communicate and engage. And that's what our journey is going to take us through. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be lots of different moments within the journey where there's reflection, there's integration, there's interaction. We're going to cover some really interesting tools and techniques, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. We kick off with an onboarding session. That's where we all get together. We look at what's the journey, what's it involved, how do we get the most from it. We'll do a little bit of a walk through the platform so we can understand how that works, how we can contribute to the shared thinking pods, how we can access our mind nudges, where the resource libraries are, where we can share and comment, where you'll also see some random acts of learning. So there's lots of stuff going on there. We'll set you up so you're ready to go. And then week one, you get your first mind nudge. So on a Monday, you'll get a mind nudge. It comes straight through into your email. You can click on the link, go into the platform. It'll give you your instruction for the day. You can have an audio vibe so you can hear it, or you can just read it. And that'll take you off into the workplace. So that's your informal learning happening there in the flow of work. So as we know from Learning at Work Week, most of our learning happens while we're at work, when we observe and then we reflect upon that experience. Then on Wednesday, you'll get your second mind nudge, which is your reflection. So whatever you observed and noticed, either about yourself or those around you, you'll then reflect upon that on the Wednesday. And then on the Friday, you'll get your action nudge. And this is where you're adapting. So after those observations and those reflections, what actions are you going to take as a result? What shifts are you making? And what we tend to find is this begins to happen almost subconsciously. By the time we've gone through the observe and the reflect, and we've used certain anchors, we're already beginning to think about the shifts that we can make. Because often we've got many of the answers within ourselves. And then at the end of that week, we can go into the shared thinking pod, reflect as a group. And then the following week, we've got our first pop-up session. And then we repeat that process. We've got our mind nudges, we've got additional pop-ups, and at the end of our journey, we've got our offboarding session and what we call our peer party and celebration. And this is where everybody comes together, we connect at the end of the journey, check in with how we've got on, and set ourselves up for success post the journey. And that's it. That's it. Now, the good news, the really good news, is because it's Learning at Work Week, we've got a really, really special offer. So for the first 5 organizations that respond to this live, we're going to offer you a 50% discount on this or any other journey up to the 31st of May. So the first 5 organizations that respond to this LinkedIn Live and the subsequent post, and we have got an email campaign going out as well, so get in quickly if you're interested. You will be able to access this, and I hope you jump on this one because this is one of my favorites, or any of the other wonderful journeys we've already created, and you can get that for 50% off. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you're a CX frontline team, this is going to cost you approximately £150 per delegate for a cohort of 20 people. Okay, so if you've got a small contact center, a medium-sized contact center, or a large retail operation, you can scale and you can do this in a really cost-effective way. It's different, but as Learning at Work Week says, we've got to look at new and innovative ways to release the power of our learning, to connect learners up across sites. Now we've got that hybrid world. So think about how you're bringing learning to your hybrid teams. Think about how you're connecting people. Think about how you're sustaining your learning. I'm sure there's some really good programs out there in CX around empathy. How are you sustaining them those? How are you creating and getting that real shift in people's thinking and behavior so it has a big impact on the employee and the customer experience? If you're not getting that impact, come and talk to us. we can show you how you can adapt and create journeys to enhance your existing programs. We can look at your existing program and build the mind nudges around it potentially. So there's lots of ways we can support you with these journeys. But today, let's think empathy. Let's think be more human. Every interaction, one step at a time. How can we shift it? How can we move and create this movement towards those human experiences? And we're going to do that with these journeys. Now, later in the week, I'm going to be talking to you about another journey on empathy, and that's for leaders. Because, of course, we're talking the customer experience piece, but as I mentioned earlier, we've also got to look after the employee experience and help our organizations to become more human as well, and genuinely build empathic organizations with leaders that are really strong in empathy. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the week. So we'll share then. Anyway, I'm going to pause. Fee, I'm sure you've got a few questions for me. So fire away. Let me know what your thoughts are. And yeah, over to you.
Well, not so much me, but on a DM, I had earlier, just about 5 minutes ago, was a question on, it might seem a bit like we have explained this in other formats, but I can completely appreciate the question as well. What is a mind nudge? What is a pop-up? So that's decent questions, very much so. We are coming in with different lives. One thing I'll say is we've had technical problems on this live today, so apologies. We couldn't share the journey, but we're going to put a link to it or a way to look at it, the journey, that the empathy and CX journey, at the bottom of the event after this live. So I'm really sorry, something's happened with StreamYard. So just apologies on that. The other thing I just want to note, all the way through this, listening to the stuff you're discussing here, and I'm sure other people will agree with this if they know this and value this subject, which is really this thing that with human skills, including empathy, which is probably the pinnacle of human skill, is this shift with more technology. So it seems that the more technological move we've made, the more transactional human skills have become, and that has to stop, because the value of us talking in human terms to our customers is a value we're going to have more of, as you know, otherwise AI can do the job. Do you know what I mean? So the customer, absolutely, if they want to speak to a human, they want, yeah, do you see what I mean? Sorry, there's a delay as well on top of everything on this. Go on, sorry, Tony.
That's okay, Phil. You're absolutely right. The challenge for organizations, or some organizations, is they're seeing technology as the answer to customer experience and being more human. And whilst technology will play a massive part, and it has a massive role to play, the more technological we become, the more important the human element is. Because we've got the disconnect with technology already. You think about contact centers originally, automatically disconnected from customers. And we've got the same challenge with organizations generally. And what we need to focus on is that human element as well. I think the advisors of the future, when we're talking about CX, most of the basic stuff will be done by AI and automation. What will rely on the human are the really complex, more challenging, more sensitive interactions. And those advisors are going to have much more time to deal with those interactions, because that's what's going to be needed. They're going to have to operate across multi-channel. So they're going to have to be as comfortable talking to somebody in person as they are over the telephone or over social. And they're going to need these human skills to not only connect, but to solve these problems quickly and more effectively. That's going to be the difference. 5% of the role is going to be technical skills. 95% of it is going to be your human skills, your ability to empathize, connect, understand. That's where the role's going. So if you're not doing that as an organization, if you're not equipping your team...
Sorry, there's a delay. Sorry, it makes it really awkward. Sorry, it makes it really awkward if I sort of interrupt you. There's a massive delay, so I'm so sorry. That's why I've tried not to as well. This whole thing of the higher level of AI capability that more we need to up our human skills. I mean, that's just logical anyway. So it really, what it means to be human really does matter. And it certainly matters when you're interacting with relationships on customers and employee engagement and all that sort of stuff. But lastly, can you just explain what is a mind nudging, you know, from your terms, from your journey, and what is a pop-up? Because I'm mindful we've got 4 minutes.
Yeah, super simple, Fee. So a pop-up is between a 30 to 60-minute workshop. They are often game-driven, they're interactive, they focus on skills and strategies. Their exact format will vary depending on the nature of that pop-up in that particular theme. So it can be any of those things, but they're always interactive. And your Mind Nudge is an interactive micro-learning experience. Okay, it's an interactive micro learning experience that's introspective. Okay, so as an example, I might say to you, Fee, as you go about your day and you have a number of interactions, I'd like you to notice the internal thoughts that pop up into your head when you're dealing with different types of challenging customers, as a very simple example. So your Mind Nudge that day is all about you just noticing what potential thoughts, what we call ants, automatic negative thoughts, what self-talk is going on for you when you're dealing with a customer, because of course what's happening for you in here has an impact on how you think, and then of course how you communicate, etc., with the customer. So it's about just you noticing, introspecting your own thinking, your mindset and behavior.
Okay, brilliant. So that's fantastic. So to close off, because we've got 2 minutes left, let's share the different links we're going to share and what's coming next this week, because I know psychological safety is tomorrow.
Yeah, we've got an exciting week ahead.
And empathy is next.
Yeah, we're doing 5 journeys over 5 days. So to celebrate Learning at Work Week, we're going to launch a different journey each day. So I believe tomorrow is psychological safety. That's another one of my journeys. I believe on Wednesday we have Glenn Bracey talking about one of his journeys that he's going to be launching. And then on Thursday we have another 2 members of my team, Kath and Richard, who will be talking about a really interesting journey they've created. And then I think I'm back on Friday to finish off the week on empathy for leaders. So yeah, I'll see you later in the week. So we've got lots of interesting little lives. You can find out a bit more about each of the different journeys. You can get a feel for some of my team and some of the people that are also facilitating the journeys as well. And of course, you can hear every day from the lovely Fee of what's going on at Mind Nudger and how they're supporting people like myself and our organisations to really transform learning in 2024 and do things a little bit differently, a little bit better, and really for some different outcomes. So lovely to see everybody. Thank you, Fee. It's been a pleasure to be on this morning, and I wish you all well.
Apologies for the technical issues, guys, and see you on the next one. Thank you very much, Tony. Thanks very much for explaining all that. Brilliant. And happy Learning in Work Week. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good week, everybody.